Hello, today I'm going to be going over my maps and regional tables that I've developed for my old school Essentials campaign. This is something that I thought that maybe, I'll just kind of go over to show people some behind the screens DMing stuff. So I should start off by saying that if you do adventure in Restone with me as your GM, do not watch this video as there will be spoilers and behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, this is mostly just a peek behind the curtain of all of my madness that I splash down onto a page. Now, it isn't the nicest map that could be, but it is, at least I find effective. Now, I do tend to try and have a more creative flair to things that I do, and in the past, I'll probably throw up some other maps. I've made a lot of adventure and world maps and things like that, but then I've come to find that they never quite I detail things and then I never use the detail that's there, or so what I like to do now, or I've started to do, at least with this game, is leaving a lot of blank spaces. So I'll just kind of get into it. So this is the starting village. This is Restone, so it's only about a mile. 1 mile hexes. This is what this map is, and I'll just zoom out fully so you can see. And it's just 20. It'll be 24 miles. Oh no, 20 miles. Whoops, I have made a mistake here. Then around 24 by 24. So I'm actually a couple of hexes off 24, but it's near enough one day's travel in each direction. That's kind of what I was going for. So this is it's obviously a hex map, and what I've wanted to do is try and leave a lot of blank spaces. So in fact, while I do map out again, you can kind of see that there's detailed stuff in here, and then this region north of Restone, I've got this forest, and then there's mountain range and rivers. And this is my more kind of detailed bit, and then everything essentially closest to the town where they're going to be going as a party from starting off. And so what I've just done is I've thrown down a bunch of just encounters and tiles. I actually found a lot of these tiles are from a free Photoshop calligraphy tool set. That's the word I'm looking for. And they had things like hills in there, mountains, which you can see in these ones, and then forests, obviously. And then I just used like the house star little pin mark there. I think the pin mark's actually a dungeon draft one. And then the church, the temple symbol. I think they're just clip art that I found from like clip art icons and things like that I found using Google. Another thing that I've been kind of doing is dropping down random things. So a hill here, and then there's a little marker, Restone Mine. Maybe the mine will have some stuff written in it. This GM notes section is really useful on Roll20. Let's see. Cool art. There we go. So what I'm starting to do is fill these out, just putting little notes and things like that in case I forget anything about the place whilst players are chatting about the map and stuff. It saves me having to open up my Google Docs, go through trying to find the place name somewhere in my docs, and then so this is kind of the different regions that I've got. So you can see Folktongue Forest I've put around here, and then I've actually greened in the areas. So these are two separate. So the Flint Fells and Folktongue, these are two different. I guess I could have done it a different colour. In fact, I might as well. I've also expanded the Flint Fells since, because I just thought it was too small of a mountain range and I wanted a bigger one. And I just like to do little doodles as well, I guess. So if you look here, I've doodled this tiny little doorway, and I was thinking, right, well, if they enter from this tile, this is the entrance to the mountain range, to the city, and then they can go here, and then there is actually an exit over this side. So if they did find themselves in the plains of Whiteheath and they wanted to get to the other side, well, maybe they could go through Coolbar. Though at the minute, as I've made note here, Cordoba, currently known as Sonath Valkos, or Vlakos, sorry, Vlakos. Pronounce it however I like. Sonath Vlakos is a goblin city that's been taken over by, and so yeah, like I was saying, I've kind of made these regions, so Folktong Forest, and then I've, like I say, filled this in. Something you can't quite see it as well because I've got the like hidden areas and stuff, but something that I didn't know that you could do, that is possible on Roll20, is if you use the hex, because it's like hexadecimals, right, for the color coding, you can make things slightly transparent, which is actually, for doing map regions and stuff, is really useful. Where yeah, I've basically mapped out an area and it doesn't have to be this like strong border or anything, because you can make it slightly more transparent just through using hexadecimal. So if you just Google like hexadecimal color coding, then you can learn how that is done. I'll just move that to be slightly further on. So yeah, so like this tile here, this is a dungeon. There's, if you've listened to any of my campaign diaries, this is Florin's camp, which is a scout in the region, and the party is currently, as per time of recording, they are actually at Restone Mine. Another thing I need to do is make a party token. I might just throw something together at some point to be able to use to track kind of where they've been going and where they are on the map. And slowly revealing things as they learn about information. So for example, they learn about the bridge being over here, which is the best way to cross into Whiteheath, which is the region where they're going, up to Folktong Forest. That's their destination, is here, which is the Tomb of the Serpent Kings. Great module, I can't wait to run it. Great dungeon. Call it a learning dungeon, so it's a good introductory sort of one for new players. And then here, yeah, Militia Outpost, which is a fortress, an outpost, where there is a bunch of military deserters who came through town, and they actually came from Randomir City, which is over here, and headed all the way through, and they've kind of been, well, I've called them deserters. I'm thinking more they are just bandit, they are guards with a bandit attitude, so they're a bit of a toll job. They're here to stop any undead and ghouls and any critters really from Gulfenmire coming out westwards, heading westwards. Though their job for the most part might be maybe a little bit dull or anything, they've kind of just turned to bullying people on the roads. If anyone passes through the region, they'll try and rob them for coin. So you can see here I've put bandits 1d8, so when players are wandering through the region, I'll roll a d8 and they might find, you know, they'll find a group of bandits. That is actually based off of the roles within Old School Essentials. So in the Referee's Toll, each creature has a wilderness and a dungeon encounter amount, I think it's called, something like that. And if I just go through here, I should be able to find it. I think I've just done the dungeon amount here for them, where I've put 1d8 because my party is so low level. But maybe I should put it to the top, and it would be a bit more interesting if they come across all of these bandits and they don't know what to do. Where are we? Buccaneer, Brigand. Normally, 1d4 times 10, footmen. Leaders and commanders. Camp leaders as well. So there's got a lot of things. So I'll actually update that to 1d4 times 10. But my regional tables, that's, you know, the other kind of half of this video. So I've made these regions. Folktong Forest, the Flint Fells, Triad Peak region, as well as Branmere itself, and Gulfenmire here. And then we've got, this is like an elf region, I can't remember what I named it. Evening Star Ranch, there's lots of hobgoblins with stolen cows here. And what I've done is I've taken these places and I've made myself rollable tables out of the regions. So here, for example, so rather than just having a forest and rolling on a forest table, I've made these rollable tables for Folktong Forest itself. So we've got these mushroom goblins, which are found within Tomb of the Serpent King. There's lizards of any kind of sort, snakes or cobras, snake pits, so the pit viper, as well as lizard men, and then moss-covered ancient dilapidated ruins carved from sandstone with snake motifs. Maybe that should be granite, not sandstone, because granite is meant to be one of the exports of the region. But yeah, and then I've just kind of written a little bit about each table. So the region, so millennia ago, the home of powerful, intelligent humanoid snake people, since they've gone extinct but hidden with the remnants of civilization. Ecology hints at the high number of reptiles and serpent creatures. There you go. And then I thought, well, maybe the lizard folk once maybe like a slave race to the serpent kings or something, and now that they've with the demise of the serpent civilization, these lizard men dominate the forest in more tribalistic, I guess, communities. Many of them also, I thought, originally came from Gulfenmeyer, and so Gulfenmeyer has lizard folk that live in there, which I've written here. They make poisons which is sold to the Narrow Brokers. The Narrow Brokers are a thieves guild that are in Brandmere. So I wanted to connect everything together, make it feel like it's a living world. So you can see here, Gulfenmeyer, I just sort of put a bunch of things from the different like swamp tables, and then I put things in like Stinking Bog, for example, or a driftwood, that's meant to say. Dear me, can you tell I'm dyslexic? Driftwood Fishing Hut. And then Brandmere, I've got some stuff going on here. I was thinking of having some kind of, as you can see, some vampire bats, a bit of a vampire plot line, depending on when they start going to Brandmere. They're probably going to go in and out a couple of times, but I was wanting to do, maybe down the line, run Ravenloft once they get to maybe like level 6 or so, and introduce this table to the city then, where, some, spooky stuff's going on, and the players, start spotting, okay, well, there's maybe more vampires and things like that. As well as the elf forest that was seen earlier, got a bunch of things. There's, elves and dryads and sprites and pixies, all kind of fey leaning. Now the Flint Fells, this is the most fleshed out one that I have. And quite a dominant region to the north. Players have also expressed wanting to maybe go there. So I've got goblins, there's lots of goblins and things like that. And then there's a dwarf ruins that I've got rolling on. And then maybe dwarves that still live in the region, that live in the small communities in the mountains. I guess dwarf villages and things like that, strongholds, where they still hold out and fight against the goblins. As well as, I thought it makes sense that we would have adventuring parties that are going there just like the rest of our party, who are going looking for maybe treasure and things like that. So because of this, I rolled up an adventuring party called the Iron Circle, and then I used Donjon to just randomly generate the character names and things like that, and descriptions. And yeah, I just made a party of, 5 is there? Yeah. A party of 5 here. Barbarian, gnome, another barbarian, a cleric, and a druid. So I thought, hey, these would be like people that have headed up into the mountains. They're looking for the treasure of the dwarves. But also I rolled for a quest for them, that Thunder seeks a company of adventurers to recover and destroy an evil artifact from the ruins of Villy Castle, somewhere amidst a misty glen. A vault filled with spikes on 8th level of the Barrow of Vile Nightmares. And then there's the Ritual of the Goblin King. So yeah, there's stuff going on between the dwarves and the goblins that live there. A war that's lasted for over 100 years. Which, something I thought as well would be interesting is that for a lot of the dwarves, it's maybe 100 and 150 years, 200 years at most. And so for the dwarves, it's a generation to 2 generations. Many of their parents or grandparents were the ones that used to live in this city. However, for the goblins, because goblins have such a short lifespan, for goblins it's 10, 20 generations, which would maybe even seem like for time immemorial to them, maybe that these dwarves that they've lived in these mountains and that these dwarves have hunted them down. And for the goblins, maybe they're raised with such a vile distaste for dwarves, because they've known for, like I say, 20 generations or something, that dwarves hunt them down and kill them, and talk about how they want to reclaim their old lands. And so for a perspective from the goblins, the dwarven lands are rightfully theirs because they've lived there for so long, while the dwarves think, no, this was the land of our ancestors, our grandparents, even, it's not been long gone to them. I also actually did a one-shot with a bunch of players, a high-level one-shot with a bunch of players, basically going through the events, the demise of this dwarven city, where they all played honourable leaders, well, actually, more likely dishonourable leaders that led to the collapse of the city. The way that I described it to them was, imagine the death of Stalin, but with dwarves. So the film The Death of Stalin, if you've seen that, good film. Very sort of funny, but it's about, the fall of the Soviet Union, or rather, the death of Stalin. This mighty leader has now died, and it seems like everything could go into collapse, and they don't know because there's the Cold War going on and everything in the film. So that's what the vibe that I went in with was, it is the end time for this city. Do what you will. And here I then I've got my dwarven ruins table. On the large dwarf rune carving, I've got the Siege of Kuldawar. And I've written here, so there's 4 names that are carved in: Amdir Deep Mountain, Bonlin Thunderhelm, Gilfrey Halfa, Karina Ruby Shield. And these are the names of the player characters that died there. Different party, different group to the party that are playing. But, that's a little, I guess, getting other players involved and things like that. I think it's a nice way of releasing some creativity and letting others weigh in on the world building and stuff like that. So this was mostly what I kind of wanted to go over with. I basically take segments from the rollable tables that already exist, and then I put creatures in there, and I think about, well, what kind of region is this? And then I tie little bits together. Like I said, with the lizard folk that live in Folktongue Forest, maybe once were lizard folk from Gulfenmire, and then the lizards in Gulfenmire, they actually have deals to do with people from Brandmere. And so, I wanted to try and feel alive. But as a kind of new GM to this more sandbox style of play, I found that this is at least useful for getting things together. I'm rollable tables, I'm creating scenes out of them. So I'm basically pre-rolling, so they're not so random to me. And it's becoming a thing that's very useful, especially in my mind, for developing the personalities of the region. Yeah, so to go into, I guess, the naming conventions of some of these things, I am a little bit of a stickler for etymology. I love learning about where words come from and stuff. It's kind of, it sounds a little bit sad, but I think for players, at least, players that are interested into your lore, it can add when there is this a cohesive narrative between place names, it makes the world feel a little bit more alive. So Folktongue Forest, it's called that because there's a lot of reptiles in it. Very simple. But White Heath is kind of a grassland, so a heath, but it's called White Heath because there's lots of chalk that has found its way down from the mountains. There's lots of granite and flint in this region. That's why it's called the Flint Fells. And yeah, chalk is often found amongst, I believe it's found amongst flint. And so I thought, okay, well, if there's lots of trade, this used to be lots of trade from the dwarves that live in this mountain region. Well, now going, you know, they would have brought chalk and things like that into the plains, and maybe, you know, bits of it have just gotten left and things like that. And so now, years down the line, it's just sort of left, and that's where the name comes from. You know, the chalk fields, which has eventually become Whiteheath. And I believe that's mostly everything that I kind of wanted to talk about. Yeah, just kind of go over my map. You can see random sort of stuff here. We got all these different regions, ideas for possible dungeons and stuff like that. But I've got a lot of blank spaces. Maybe at some point I'll do something if there's interest for it, like a live stream or something like that. And I think it could be fun for players to maybe, or not players, viewers and things like that, to chip in, and I can fill these regions out. As I've basically just got, you know, a little point here, and then a bit of Brandmere. It would be nice to maybe, you know, put something in here. Obviously there's it's 10 miles of water there, it's 10 miles of open space, 6 miles wide. And then who knows, maybe I can remove stuff like this. For example, if I am going to do Curse of Strahd, then I won't do, or rather Ravenloft, the module. I probably won't have Duskmourn Castle, as I've called it, here. Then it'll just be like, this is the forest and the mountains, and then when you head into the forest or into the mountains, the mists surround you and you end up in Ravenloft. And so I could probably maybe reduce this region a bit, or put it further out to the very edge of the map or something like that. But yeah, if you've got any thoughts, if you've got any ideas for things that I could put in the region, or if you've just found this helpful, remember to like, subscribe, you know, get in contact, share this, however way you like. I'm always interested to talk with people about just TTRPGs in general, all sorts, as well as old school essentials, as it is a new system for myself, and I don't have any GM friends that have played it. So yeah, I'd be look forward to maybe talking with anyone about it if there's any tips and tricks. Thanks for watching, and take care.